How's it going, YouTube? Coming at you today with another video, and today guys, what to bring to you is Where to Handtrap Power the Elements Edition. Now, I will be adding in a couple different decks from Tactical Masters as well, because it will be closely following POTE format, and I want to have a guide ready to go so you have something for every different deck that you'll be seeing in the next month. So this is really exciting too, because we are getting so many different decks, and so many old decks are going to get some support here as well. So this format is going to be really insane. Also, if you haven't already seen, down in the description below, you can find the link to my new Instagram for the channel. It's going to be a really cool time for you to be able to follow me throughout my journey in the game and to really see all the venues that I go to, all the different people that I get to meet, and you get to know me a little bit better. And I really love that because I want to interact with my community as much as possible. Also, I will be getting glasses, and this is something that you'll see in a lot of my videos now, is because I grew up with double lazy eyes, and so even though I have 20/20 vision, it takes a lot for me to focus my eyes forward now, because essentially what the surgery did for me was instead of my eyes just sitting like further away, they can actually pull forward now, but so the glasses are going to allow them to pull forward without me making them do that. So that was really hard for me to stay on stream really late because I couldn't really focus my eyes that long. So now I have glasses coming in about 2 weeks, and so I'll be able to stream a bit longer too because I won't have to strain my eyes as much. So that'll be really exciting. If you haven't already seen a picture of that, is also on my Instagram. But those will be a new addition to the videos and a new addition to the stream. So that's something that I just want to let you guys know that's going to be changing a little bit soon. But if you haven't already checked out my sponsors over at Imperium Duelist and Dragon Shield, definitely go ahead and check them out, and let's hop right on into Where to Handtrap. So the first deck that I have for you today is going to be Exorcist. Now, Exorcist actually just mirrors Evil Swarm back in Dragon Ruler format because it was never the best deck and it was always just a meta call. So I really only see this deck doing well if Sprite and Tyralment start taking up most of the top cut, because that's where this deck really shines and becomes more viable. I just want to make sure that you know how to hand trap this in case you run into it. So essentially, Malfa is the new one that we're getting. If you control no monsters, or all the monsters you control are Xyz, you can special summon this card from your hand and then special summon an Ellis from your deck. Then it's really cool because this card has the PSCT that all the cards should have had, and that's if a card is moved out of either graveyard, not the other ones that say if your opponent moves a card, because that's really easy to counter by just not touching the graveyard. But this is a card that specifically says if a card is moved out of either graveyard, it doesn't rely on your opponent. You can special summon an Exorcist or Xyz monster with this card. Really good card, really strong support. So how do we hand trap this deck though? So the first thing is that if they use Vadis, I usually just either go battle phase and attack over the monsters, or I'll just pass because the monsters they summon off of Vadis, they get to summon 2, get shuffled back into the deck, so it becomes a lesser of a problem. It's just really easy to play around at that point. Now, if this gets chained, it's unfortunate. If you have an Ash, you really have to just use the Ash on this, which is something that you never really want to do because you usually just want to use Ash on Malfa because Malfa is so strong. So you kind of have to make that decision. Like, if they're just starting off their turn, you see Malfa, Ash it. But if it's like a later game situation and they flip the trap, then just go ahead and Ash that instead. It's fine. And then always go ahead and Imprimer Veiler the Xyz that allows them to banish and search, because this card right here, they don't always summon at turn 1, but it definitely does get summoned turn 1, so you can go ahead and get like your Vadis or like a Pax, or there's another card too that allows you to essentially Xyz without needing your opponent to have anything on board. So you just want to make sure that you are going ahead and stopping this card so you don't have to deal with any of that. And then you essentially is forcing your opponent to have things like Vadis, because this card can only banish the turn that it's summoned as well. So it just loses a lot of value the second that you summon it turn 1. So just if you are playing against this deck, just go ahead and Ash them Alpha. If they use Vadis, just pass or just battle phase over the monsters, and then always just go ahead and negate the Exceed. The next deck here is going to be Mech. So this deck is honestly just insane, and I feel like it's going to be much better than Exorcist. And so essentially even Circular here, the new one that we're getting, is allowing you to just send a Mech monster from your deck to the graveyard for cost, and then you can special summon this card from your hand, so you already have a free Sigma in the graveyard, and then you can only attack with one monster for the rest of the turn, which never really mattered. And then if another Mech monster is normal or special summon to your field while you control this, you can add a Mech Pillar Trap from your deck to your hand. So yeah, you get another way to Super Factorial, which is insane. You want to just Ash this because it shuts off their way to their in-archetype Revolt, and just like playing against Tri Brigade, you never want Revolt to resolve, so this is something that you definitely want to make make sure that you cut off as soon as possible. So as far as like hand trapping this deck, you want to go ahead and Imperm or Veiler on the diameter, because this allows them to go ahead and recur another monster to the field, especially if they have a circular engrave. You want to just cut that off as soon as possible. Also, whatever exceed the diameter makes, you want to make sure that you just know the fact that that exceed can only have a negate during the turn that it's summoned. So if you wait on your Imperm for the following turn and use it then, it's going to be a lot more impactful, because if you don't have 2 hand traps to shut down the board, they put up an Omni negate with whatever this card summons. So this is something that you just really want to keep in mind, because that can be very problematic, but it only holds the negation the turn that it's summoned. So the other thing though is you want to go ahead and Bell the Super Factorial. Very strong card, and just like Revolt, again, you want to shut that down as soon as possible. So Bell and the Revolt, essentially the Super Factorial, super good to have. Also, using Ash again on that on-field effect to add the Super Factorial from the circular, and then gamma-ing the circular on board is also just very impactful, and then also using DD Crone, the Sigma that goes to the graveyard. So for the next deck here, we have Marincess, and I really want to cover this again because of the fact that we just saw it do really well at the Championship Series, or the Nats, whichever one you want to call it. But so Marincess is very good right now, and I really don't think that it's like insane, but it just gains a lot of value off being able to play a ton of hand traps and just not many cards needed to combo, right? There's a lot of different decks out there that just really gain value because of that aspect alone. So you can go ahead and Bell the Splash Mage, very good option here, or you can go ahead and Ash Veiler Imperm the Sea Angel to go ahead and cut off the Dive or the Battle Ocean, and then you can also go ahead and Ghost Ogre the Battle Ocean itself, or you can hit the Anemone with the Ghost Ogre, because it does have to summon to an arrow that it points to, which is still very strong. So going off of this though, Parliament. So this is the deck that we really have coming up that we just know is going to be one of the better decks, and I really want to make sure that you know exactly how to go against this. So turn 0, so the very first turn of the game, if you're on combo and you're starting to combo and they reveal Hoffiness in their hand, Ash it, because you don't want to accidentally get hit by a Winda turn 1. That would be terrible. So just definitely go ahead and Ash this turn 1 if you have it, because of the fact that this can be very scary as to what it can mill. Also, high priority, Veiler Imperm, the level 5 fusion. This card's insane, allows for way too much value, so you want to go ahead and negate this at all means necessary. But if you have another Imperm or a Veiler, or if you just think that it's going to stop the entire turn, hitting the Reinhardt or the Mare is also just very good, because both of these cards are Armonite, so you want to make sure that they just don't get to their 1-card fusion. This is also just a very solid option to go ahead and Veiler or Imperm as well. The other thing is that it's very build dependent on what you ash here, but ashing the Shaylin is usually very good because it's a free mill and a free body on the board. Or if you know that they're on like the Branded build or the Shadal build, then you will just go ahead and ash either of these. You can assume if you see dolls in their build that going into a game where your opponent's going second, they probably have Shadal Fusion in their sideboard. So you want to make sure that you're holding Ash for that Shadal Fusion at all means necessary, because this is a card that can really change the game, especially if they go send like Ariel, send Dragon, and summon Opcolon. It's really nuts, and that's really good value. So the other thing though is that if they are in the branded package, you will find that out pretty quick, so that you can just go ahead and ash the fusion, but otherwise just hit the Shaylin. Also, you can bell all their effects to shuffle back and fuse, so it's just really important to know to cut off that avenue very quickly. The next deck that I have for you is going to be Sprite. Sprite, pick your hand trap, pick your hand trap and cut off Gigantic. This is something that you just really want to do. Imperm, Veiler, Ash, Ogre, all these cards work on this. You want to go ahead and shut this off as soon as possible. Do not let your opponent get the Swat Frog. This is something that is going to be very necessary. The next thing is Gamma on Diva is potentially just game. If they don't have starter, they need a 2 to be on board. So if you Gamma Diva, it's over. So that's something that's very important. This is like the best hand trap next format, hands down. Gamma's nuts. So if you can play Gamma, you're playing Gamma. Sometimes whenever they have Ronin engraved, they only have like 1 frog and they really need to get like the additional body on the board, and you make them waste a lot. So like if they don't have many frogs on the grave and you Ghost Spell on the Ronin Totem, sometimes it's just really impactful. You can also just go ahead and then Ghost Spell the Elf if they try to bring back like a Totally Awesome as well, which is equally impactful because that means you only had to play through 1 thing versus like 2. So this is something that I also just recommend to go ahead and do, is hold the bell for the Elf, but definitely Gamma on that Diva or the first one that tries to activate, so they don't control it too. And then everything is just like a Handtrap magnet on the Gigantic as well. The next deck here is going to be Misty Ruin. Misty Ruin, you want to go ahead and then Ash this Searcher. This is the Rhoda for like anything in the deck that's like the quick play spells. So definitely go ahead and Ash this. Ghost Ogre on the field spell so they don't get like insane amounts of draws. This is also a card that allows them to use their cards from hand so they can't get like lightning stormed. So definitely Ghost Ogre on the field spell, very impactful. Then also you want to Valor Imperm the Runic Wings because this card searches the field spell. And then also if you have Ogre as well, this card will prevent Ogre from blowing up the field spell. So you want to go ahead and Imperm or Valor this card as much as possible, 100%. So the last deck here is going to be Labyrinth. Labyrinth, you want to go ahead and Ash the Welcome Labyrinth. This is just a card that you just don't want them to have because it just gets them to a lot of free advantage. And then always go ahead and Valor or Imperm their normal summons because it's going to be the most impactful thing for you to do. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. It's all the brand new decks that we're looking at right now and a couple old ones just to make sure that we're as caught up as possible and we are prepared for this next format. If you haven't already checked out my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter, definitely go ahead and check them out down in the description below. Also my new Instagram. If you haven't already subscribed, definitely go ahead and subscribe because we're almost at that 15K goal. And then if you want a coaching session over at Metafy, definitely go over there, check it out. And if you have any questions, PM me on Discord. Have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.